I said, okay, it's really about this woman whose dad is in with the African Union in this special unit, and he gets blown up by a terrorist, and his daughter is just on her way to the U.S. to get a law degree. She gets a law degree, comes back and joins this unique unit that's set up by the African Union to fight terrorism. I involved that terrorism thing because when I was in Nairobi, I used to go to this mall all the time to get my groceries and shop, whatever. And it was a Saturday, and one Saturday, and I was going to go. I thought, okay, I'll go at noon. And then I fell asleep on the couch, and I wake up and I look at Facebook and stuff, and it's like, wow, there's a big robbery at the mall. Turned out it was a terrorist attack, and these guys went in there and killed like 70 people, 68, I think it was. It was, I don't know if you remember that, but it was
Yeah.
quite a while ago. And I almost went there. So I was pretty shocked. It was only like a 5, 10 minute drive from my house. So I thought I'd tie that in that terrorism thing, right? Because it really got to me. Anyway, that's when I started writing. I wrote the pilot and I found somebody in Ontario who was willing to co-produce with me. And turns out I didn't know who they were really. Uh, they produce Handmaid's Tale, Fargo, stuff like that. So I was like, wow, maybe I know how to write.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creativity Worth Expressing. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a very creative guest. Please welcome to the podcast, Neil Schell. Neil, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing
Well,
today?
thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Pleasure to be here. I'm doing great.
Can you share with us, just to get started, what is your current form of creativity?
Right now, it's writing and directing, features or short films. That's what I do most.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing this for?
Well, directing, I actually only started 16 years ago, actually, uh, to some extent. And I directed quite a bit since then. And writing and directing has been more recent, more about the last 4 years or so. Yeah.
Okay, so something that I like to do in each episode, each interview, is get to see the creative journey of each guest. So my
Mm.
first real question for you is, what sparked your love for creativity to begin with?
I don't know the total answer to that. I would say watching movies when I was a kid on TV. Uh, I watched a lot of them, black and white, right? That's how old I am. TV wasn't in color. And yeah, I grew up in Saskatchewan, like in the middle of Canada, and we had two TV stations. So there wasn't a lot of kids stuff, and I would watch that. I always thought it was very dreamlike and aspiring, and I really enjoyed watching movies and cartoons, of course. Both.
Yes. So you said that there
Yeah,
were only two stations at that time.
yeah, that was it. Yeah,
Were there any
right.
shows that like stood out to you back then?
Well, yeah, Star Trek was huge. We actually got a color TV then when that came out. Gunsmoke, uh,
Ah,
Bonanza, these TV shows, right? Not
yeah.
the movies. I don't remember the names of. There was also a TV show called Combat. There was a lot of World War II movies and TV shows at that time, and Rawhide, of course.
Okay.
But my favorite, Martian, I Dream of Jeannie, those things.
All the classics.
Yeah, the classics. They were great.
So while you were watching these, what was going through your mind? Were you thinking one day I'm going to be a writer, one day I'm going to be a director, or was this just the I don't know, like was this just like doing something inside of your heart, or what was happening?
It was more of an excitement, I think, about it. And it seemed so much better than the real world. So why not contribute to it, eventually. I didn't really think about what I would do. Particular. It started more about acting, actually, later on. I thought, wow, I should maybe act in these things. But yeah, it was just the excitement of it all and how I felt it was so much better than anything else.
Awesome. So we see that that was your spark to get
Yeah.
interested in creativity. What was your
Yeah.
first step in that direction?
Uh, I would say I took an acting class, when I was around 21 or 2. I think it was. I was a waiter, classic. And there was a guy who was a waiter with me at the restaurant we worked at. And this was in Vancouver. And he had got a small part in the Rambo movie. What was it? First Blood or something? I forget what it was. They shot it not far from Vancouver. And Stallone, right? Stallone
Yeah.
movie. And he was a truck driver in it or something. And I said, how did you get into this? And he said, oh, well, you need to take acting classes. And he told me about this guy. And so I took a few classes. That was sort of the beginning. But yeah, that was the beginning. That's when I actually did something about it. Yeah.
Now, did you think that this would be a lifelong journey, or did you see this as maybe just a moment?
I thought it would be the whole time. I didn't think I would want it to do anything else. What was interesting at the beginning was I didn't really believe it was possible. It was sort of, I had doubt about it, just because of, a scientific mind of mine. I studied sciences in college, as you call it in the States, university, we call it. And I had this very analytical mind. I thought the odds are just insane. And will it really happen? Am I wasting my time? But I was driven to it so much I couldn't really refuse, actually. And even though I tried several times. Um, it was definitely a yearning, a burning fire. It was more than a spark at that point.
Was there ever a time during, especially in the beginning, where you had
Mm.
doubts of being on this path?
Oh yeah, many times. Um, I couldn't see how I would actually accomplish it. I had no path. I had no route. I had no way. I thought at the time, oh, I need to go to California. That's what I need to do. Not knowing nothing. I did go, but it didn't go anywhere at that time. Eventually, I found a way to get in the business sort of on a different angle. It wasn't like all glorious and exciting and sparkly like acting might be. It was more on the making of film side. So I wound up being an assistant editor down in LA. And the editor had me study things, and then I worked for him and study and work and study and work and study and work. And I learned a lot about filmmaking accidentally because it wasn't like my dream job, to be an editor. But I learned to love the filmmaking process during that time. I came from the other people in the editing space that it kind of rubbed off on me. And I realized, wow, these people really love this, and I feel it. And I was working with film cutting, splicing with tape, going to the labs in LA, getting prints made, and all that stuff. I was there for quite a while, about 10 years.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing it was a lot of patience required to do all that editing.
Oh yeah, it was very different than now. I mean, it's like lightning fast now. Back then it was forever. Oh, you're missing a shot. Oh, we got to call the lab. Call the lab. They got to make it. Pick it up the next day. It's like very, very slow.
Yeah, very very slower back then. But
Yeah.
you were learning. You were quick to learn, and like you were saying, these things were rubbing off, and you were just absorbing
Mhm.
all of this knowledge. Uh, when was it that did you have like a? Sorry, let me take that from the top. When did you get a role in being in the movie?
Okay, I got into an industrial role there in LA. It was an instruction. I can't even remember what it was for, but it was a small part. I had a couple lines and I did some background stuff a little bit too. And I really, really loved being on set, far more than being in the editing room. Because, then in the editing rooms, you had to have black rooms, like you couldn't have windows. And you were just in the dark all day and you get out and it's dark and you go in, it's dark in the morning and it's dark when you leave. It's like very claustrophobic. But I really love being on set at that time. So that's when I actually got into something. But it was no big Hollywood thing at all. Yeah,
So
that's how
you're
that happened.
amazing. So we see how your creative journey, it's really developing in this part of the timeline. You've done the
Hmm.
editing, you're doing some acting. Now, when it comes to like acting roles, even though they might be small, like do you have a uh like are you attracted to some roles compared to others? Like what is it that you that pulls your attention?
As an actor,
Yes.
um, yeah, I would say, well, first of all, what I discovered eventually was kind of what I came across as to the audience. You have to really discover that. If you don't discover that, you kind of get lost. So you have to know what kind of characters the audience will, especially when you're new. They see you on the screen for like 30 seconds. They have to believe you're a doctor or you're a this or that.
Yeah.
And so that's your kind of your way in. So I focused on that, mainly authority types, played a lot of doctors, played senators, played all kinds of officials, I just played a lot of those types of characters. And because that's how I came across and I could deliver it, and those were the like that worked for me. And for the people hiring actors, of course.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's very good to keep in mind is being having that awareness of what people see as well. So thank you for sharing.
Yes. Yes.
And
Very
so
important.
while this was happening, of course, you've continued to develop. You didn't just stay in one area with your creativity. You just kept on. The ball just kept on rolling. So first was the you wanted to do acting, so you do some classes. Then you do some
Yeah.
editing. Then you're getting
Yeah.
some roles. How did your creativity continue to evolve from there?
Oh, okay. So very interesting. When I was in LA, my brother was in Vancouver and he was kind of dabbling in acting. And he says, you need to come up here and teach some acting because these guys don't know what they're doing. I don't know how he got that assessment, but he did say that to me. And I thought, okay, well, I can teach them a bit about what I know, but I think what I never got in my acting classes was you're delivering something to an editor. And so you need to know how that works and how you can help that editor, really the person who creates your performance, to be honest. So I started teaching a class like that in Vancouver. And I started writing scenes for people. And so writing started to happen without me really wanting to be a writer necessarily, but just to handle some of the problems I had with students, not enough scenes to work with. So I was doing that. And then at the same time, I'm learning how to coach actors in scenes. I'm learning how to improve their work. I'm starting to see like a director, but I'm not thinking director. I'm thinking I need to help this actor. That's all. And so I gained some skill in that regard, quite a bit actually, in that regard, while I was still acting as well.
I'm just
So that
amazed.
went on for many years. That teaching and then acting went on for quite a while. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I find it amazing that like when you started it, you didn't have in mind, oh, you're going to be doing editing or you're going to be
No.
teaching or writing. But I don't know, for me, it's like mysterious when you start something, sometimes it doesn't work, and there are times where it just
Mm,
keeps pulling you deeper and deeper and deeper. And I see that in your story. So it's so alive.
right. Right. Yeah, it's very true. Um, so I found myself, I actually had a big school going and partners and all that, and there were like 12 teachers there and all this stuff. It just blew up. So, but I found I wasn't teaching much then at that point, and I didn't like that because I was just being an administrator of all these people. And even though I can handle it, I didn't like it. So I started getting those kind of skills too, out of force, I guess. I was forced into it. And those are, and then I got a kind of a mentorship going with a couple of people in LA. One was Gary Goldstein, very brilliant man. On the writing side, I was interested in that. And also with, I'll think of the other person's name in a minute, Bob Fraser. Bob Fraser has passed away since, but Bob Fraser was a very prolific comedy guy. He was a director, a producer, a writer, an actor, and one of his famous TV shows was Benson, a show called Benson that he created and was exec producer and director and all those things. So he started mentoring me and totally shifted my viewpoint about the industry. And then I started getting some pretty good roles. And I would say the most exciting role I got was opposite Liam Neeson in a movie called The A-Team. And it was it was great. It was awesome. I loved working with Liam and with Joe Carnahan. He was writing, directing. He's pretty hot right now. He did that pit, what is it? I can't remember the name of that. It's on Netflix with Matt Damon and I forget what the title is. It's a brand new movie. He wrote and directed that. He was quite a force in that. He's quite a director. I learned a lot observing these directors too, because was directed by let me remember these names. Um, Akiva Goldsman. I don't know if you know who that is. He won an Academy Award for writing Beautiful Mind. He's a writer more than anything, but he does direct. So he was brought in to direct an episode of Fringe that I was in, where I played a senator. And I really observed these directors, and how they operated. It was like Zack Snyder in Watchmen. I worked with him for 3 days, and it was like I just absorbed everything like a sponge, honestly. And it really inspired me. So what happened was I never really had this dream of being a director. It just was not in me. I was asked about it while I was an editor. Somebody thought I might want to do it. And I thought, yeah, that'd be exciting, but I didn't know really fully what to do. And that was quite a bit prior to this stage I was at. So I would teach, at one point I started teaching across Canada and going to all these cities. And I went to, I did a class in Edmonton, Alberta. And in the class was a Kenyan woman, and she took the class. It was a weekend workshop thing, and she wrote me back after and said, wow, you changed my life. This is amazing. I'm going to go to Toronto and be an actor, and I'm dumping this corporate job. Fuck that, I'm leaving. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll teach you in Toronto, which I did. I taught her in Toronto because I was traveling all over, and kind of lost track of her. And I don't know, about a year later, I got an email from her. It says, yeah, I'm in Kenya and I'm helping a producer, and the cable company that's financing this want the actors trained. You want to come do it? I was like, in Kenya? Where's that exactly? I know it's in Africa. I don't know where it is exactly. Is this some Nigerian scam, African
Yeah.
ripoff thing? I couldn't believe it. So it was true, it was real, and I went there and I taught for 3 weeks, 18 actors. Um, it was fun. It was great. I went on a safari to the Mara, saw the wildebeest migration, blew my mind. It was an incredible experience. And then she started producing on her own. And she did a Swahili show, and she sent me a trailer of it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. And then she said, I'm doing an English one, and I'd like you to come help. And I said, okay, I'll direct it. Just I don't even know why I said it. I'll direct it. And that's how I started directing. So I directed my first directing job for real was 26 episodes of a TV show in Kenya in a row,
In a row. Wow, that's
in a row. They're half-hour episodes, mind you, but it was a hell of a load.
and this was never on your bingo list.
No, but what I found was my editing experience, my training of actors experience, my acting experience, my observation of other directors, my mentors. It all came together, boom, like that. And it was like, yep, this is it. Now, I'm like in my 50s now when that happened. And I was like, holy shit, this is it. It's awesome. And so I kept being asked to come back, asked to come back, asked to come back. I ended up staying there for years. And I directed some 150 some episodes. And uh, yeah, even got hired to write a feature and all kinds of stuff.
Wow. So right now in the timeline that we're at in your journey of creativity, you put on a lot of hats when it comes to, the film industry. And of course
Yeah.
you've learned this along the way. Which one is there one that sticks out the most to you?
As into my preference, or
Yes, as your preference.
I would say wow, they're all quite different, even though they're all related to the same end product. But um, acting is fun. Acting it's not easy. I can tell you that. Not everybody can act, that's for sure. Uh, I think I could bring up someone to the point where they could do something, but to be an actor, uh, it really requires a certain talent and courage, because it can be quite frightening for some people. Because camera's staring at you, you got to know your lines, blah 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 blah. I could go on about that, but I won't. So that's the fun stuff. And you're not the first one on set, and you're definitely not the last one on set. And a lot of times you have a half day or you miss a day. The workload is quite light. Directing, I like it. I attracted to it more because I get to use all my skills, everything I've learned and beyond, and I can still learn. I'm still learning all the time, and it demands stamina like you wouldn't believe, which I'm pretty good at, even at my age. I can stand up all day and work because as long as I'm engaged, right? And the thing about directing is you're never not engaged.
Mhm.
There's no sitting back and waiting at all, like there is in acting. You wait a lot, and not with directing. It's just constant, Even at night when you go home, you're looking at tomorrow's scenes and what can you do, and maybe there's some problem that came up, and so on. So you're really engaged, mind, body, and soul all the way, which I think is a good use of a life.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned earlier that you said to your friend that hey, you volunteered to direct it, and you don't know why you said it. It just came out.
Oh,
When that
yeah.
happened, was your brain like saying, "Whoa, what am I doing?" Like, "Hey, slow down,
Yeah.
relax."
Especially after the call, I was like, wow, I've not really done this to this extent. I had directed a commercial for a lawyer in Louisiana, but it was shot in Vancouver. It was with Judy Norton, and she's from the Waltons.
Mm.
She was actually working with me as a teacher in Vancouver. I had done that, and I had directed a play, and that was about it. And I was like, wow, do I really know what I'm doing? So, I hit the books and start studying. How do I approach this? Exactly. So, yeah, it was quite nerve-wracking. I was lucky because they hired a very talented DP from South Africa named Marius von Graan, who I want to work with on my next feature. He was great. Like he helped me so much. I didn't really know that much about camera, but I knew about scenes and editing and all that stuff. I knew how to block. I knew that all that stuff, but I didn't know camera so well and lighting. And he really had some great ideas, and he was very fast and very particular. He's quite good. So that kind of filled that very scary part. As far as wardrobe and design, art design and all that, I had a pretty good background in all that stuff. So yeah.
Oh, so you mentioned just a moment ago that uh, getting into this, you did hit the books a little bit just to know what you're getting
Yeah.
into. But
Oh yeah.
was there something that you learned the hard way?
Oh, uh, well, the list is long. Yeah, you know what I learned, which I didn't, which was really a big surprise to me, is that actors are the biggest problem to shooting. That's what I learned. And I learned that the hard way, and I had to compensate for it. I learned that, when your budget is low and you're running out of money and you need to solve problems, you have to be very, very imaginative. And it's a necessity. And, you realize it's actually a duty of yours as a director to solve those problems or have someone solve them for you. Uh, yeah. What else did I learn the hard way? I also learned that, um, it's not getting an actor to where you really want them, especially if you don't know the actor, is sometimes more difficult than I thought it would be. Um, and I know a lot of ways to move actors. I mean, I've trained actors for 30 some years. So at this point, at that point, it was less than that, but it was still interesting how, you have to really, really learn how to move an actor. And sometimes you just can't. So I've learned that about you got to find that in casting. There's certain traits I look for now that I know are a flag. But at that time, I had what I had.
Yeah.
The cameras are rolling, and there's no way we're going to reshoot this.
So those were some of like the things that you learned the hard way. But what are some things
Yeah.
that you enjoyed, or what are some things that you do enjoy looking back from your experience, either as an actor or as a director?
Uh, I think I enjoy the teamwork a lot. I like the fact that we're all there to do the same thing. Most of us. I mean, sometimes people are just there to make a buck or whatever, which is unfortunate. But I really enjoy that unification when it happens, where everyone's on the same page and we're actually moving and creating something that we didn't expect even. Like it reveals itself. And those are also the best moments when you're rolling the camera is when things happen that you don't expect, but they're good. They improve the movie, they improve the TV show, they improve the scene. Those are cool. Those are cool moments. And that's you can't predict those. You can't. That if you did, it would take away the fun of it. Right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so, uh,
Right.
so my next question for you is because at this part of the timeline, you're directing a show, several episodes that you're directing in a row. Uh,
Well,
what happened from there, or is let me rephrase, what happened next in your creative journey?
uh, well, I well, I had a partner in Kenya. We had a production company, and we had we did this very dangerous thing. I kind of went along with her because it wasn't really my idea at all. It was a series that she created, and we had some money to finance it, and we went ahead without any kind of network wanting it. Somebody mentioned they wanted a streamer from Indonesia had come into Africa, and they set up certain people to look for projects. And the one that was set up in Kenya at the time said she wanted this show. It's a big Indonesian streamer. I think they're still around, but they left Africa. So we were going ahead with this. We had 26 episodes shot and finished, and those guys pulled out. And we owed money on it. And it was like, we're holding the bag here. And I was like, we got to do something with this. So let's put it online and charge people, $5 to watch it, a season or something. We got to do something here. So we did that and we put it online. And then I went to a conference in Johannesburg, and this woman who I had known from a different network, she was now with the streamer called Showmax, which is still around. They're based out of South Africa. And I was in line to get my tag, and this woman, Denise, was behind me. She goes, "Hey, Neil," and I'm like, "Hi, how you doing?" Blah blah blah. And she goes, I watched what was the name of the show? Monica. It's called Monica. It was like an evening soap thing. And I said, "Oh, you watched it? Great. Yeah, I want to buy it." I'm like, "What?" Let's do this. Oh my God, we were so in debt. It was crazy. Anyway, that happened. I don't know where I went after that. Oh yeah, what happened was is this partner of mine, she came to me and said, I want to make this was earlier. She said, I want to really make this show. And she showed me some kind of a like a proof of concept. And it was like a prank show. And I'm like, what are you doing prank shows for? And it just popped in my head. You should be playing a lawyer, who has just, you just finished passing the bar, and your dad is a cop and he got killed, and you decide to be a detective instead and find out all these gangs and who went after him and all that stuff and dig out those guys. And she's like, yeah, well, okay. And she didn't do anything about it. So I decided to tell a Canadian guy I had worked with, a director and producer guy, said, how'd you like to do a South African co-pro? I thought it was a good idea. And he was like, yeah, okay, send me the scripts or whatever. Let me know when you got it financed. In other words, he didn't want to really get involved. He just wanted a free ride. So I wrote it anyway because I expanded it for him. I said, okay, it's really about this woman whose dad is in with the African Union in this special unit, and he gets blown up by a terrorist, and his daughter is just on her way to the U.S. to get a law degree. She gets a law degree, comes back and joins this unique unit that's set up by the African Union to fight terrorism. And I involved that terrorism thing because when I was in Nairobi, I used to go to this mall all the time to get my groceries and shop, whatever. And it was a Saturday and one Saturday, and I was going to go. I thought, okay, I'll go at noon. And then I fell asleep on the couch. And I wake up and I look at Facebook and stuff, and it's like, wow, there's a big robbery at the mall. Turned out it was a terrorist attack, and these guys went in there and killed like 70 people, 68, I think it was. It was, I don't know if you remember that, but it was
Yeah.
quite a while ago. And I almost went there. So I was pretty shocked. It was only like a 5, 10 minute drive from my house. So I thought I'd tie that in that terrorism thing, right? Because it really got to me. Anyway, that's when I started writing. I wrote the pilot and I found somebody in Ontario who was willing to co-produce with me. And turns out I didn't know who they were really. Uh, they produce Handmaid's Tale, Fargo, stuff like that. So I was like, wow, maybe I know how to write. Right?
Yeah.
I really had no guide. I've never been tested or, sent it to anybody before. And that's what happened. So we got some money from the Canadian Media Fund and the South African Film and Video Foundation, and we hired another writer because I was not really ready to write the whole thing. And so they wanted a South African to write it because it was going to be based down there. It changed somewhat. I had it based in Kenya, but nobody wanted to shoot it there. Anyway, that's sort of on the shelf at the moment. But that's when it shifted to writing. And I thought, well, okay, I had, I got a little more confidence about writing and ideas and stuff.
It's just for me, I just find the beauty with creativity when a person, anybody has an
Mm,
idea and just gives it a little time, gives it an opportunity, and just hear this
mm.
this interview is like it's freaking proof that even though you don't know what the hell is gonna happen, just throw it out there, and sometimes it sticks, or sometimes it just continues evolving, and then it'll eventually stick. But for me, that is just so fascinating hearing your
Well,
journey.
I have another one too. I mean, this same person who I said, you should do this. And she went, nah. She came to me. She's my partner now, and we're in business and we're doing productions in Kenya. And she says, yeah, there's this. What do you think about animation? And I'm like, it's expensive. But I didn't really know what I was talking about. I just had heard that. Right. And, we're in Kenya, so, labor costs are quite low. And she goes, well, there's this guy came to me and he says he wants to do animation and they're going to send you a proposal. And I'm like, okay. So I get this proposal. It was about the cost of making an episode. This is what they wrote. There was a guy who was a businessman and a guy who was an artist, and they teamed up and they pitched me this. The businessman sent me the stuff, and I said, "Okay, let's have a meeting because this looks doable. I must be have wrong information about animation in Kenya or whatever." So we have a meeting. It's so funny. We're sitting there. So I said, "Okay, this is doable. This is correct. This budget. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We just need a down payment, blah, blah, blah." And I said, okay, well, what are you going to do? What's the story? And they're like, oh, well, we don't have an idea. We thought you had an idea. I said, you guys came to me. What are you talking about? What? So I was like, okay, coincidentally or not, whatever, it's just how these sparks happen, right? So all of a sudden I'm sitting there and we need an idea. And it's like, when I first directed in Kenya, these guys on set were making jokes. They spoke a lot of Swahili, first of all, which I didn't understand. But there was this one word I kept hearing all the time, mock mende, mock mende, mock mende. And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh, that's a Kenyan superhero. That was years earlier. So I said to these guys, well, who owns mock mende? What is that? Let's do a superhero. And they're like, I don't know. So I said, check the copyright office, find out. Check the copyright office. Nobody owns it. What? I don't know where it came from because people just talked about it, right? So I said, okay, do that. Let's do the mock Mende thing. Start drawing. So the guy starts drawing characters and all this stuff. And then I get a couple writers and we together, I kind of oversaw the writing. And they go to put it out and we get it all done. Well, we got some drawings and we start posting drawings on Facebook and stuff because they're all excited, right? Ah, we're gonna do this new thing, Mock Mende. And then this music band who'd done a music video called Mock Mende, their lawyer sends a cease and desist letter. It was like,
Mm.
okay, well, I don't necessarily need Kenyan fans. Let's just change the name. Okay. So we did. But I did a little research on the name Mock Mende, and this is funny. Uh, I looked it up. I think it was in my Wikipedia or somewhere. And it said Mock Mende came from the 80s when you'll never believe this. Clint Eastwood was Dirty Harry, and he'd say, "Make my day." And so Kenyans twisted it to Mock Mende. So that it meant that bravado of challenge and fuck you.
Yeah.
That's what it meant. And then this band made up a character. It was a real live video. They didn't have animation. Anyway, I wrote the pilot. Then I actually met with Cartoon Network a couple times. They they were like, "Yeah, the drawings are kind of classic. You need to change those." I knew nothing about animation really, and I said, "Okay." I didn't. Oh, classic? Like, what does that mean? I was just like, I don't know. So she said, yeah, a little more African. She was from Paris. That's where their Cartoon Network's offices were for Africa. And I was like, okay. So I found a artist in South Africa who really blew my mind. And so I wrote a whole pilot episode and I've written a feature and I got a 3-minute clip I made. It's very expensive. Oh, by the way, that guy's budget was 10x too low. They're full of shit, those guys. Put it bluntly.
Well, that's the thing, what's
Anyway,
great.
I
Yeah.
and now that 3-minute thing I made is on Fox Soul. It's on there. It's a fast channel, right? Streaming TV station. They picked it up. But it takes so long to make another episode. It's like I have written one. I'm putting it together. I need new characters drawn. That's happening now.
Are you
That's
also one of
another.
the voices?
No, no. They're Africans, right? It's an African story. But there are aliens in it now in this episode. So it can be, anybody's voice.
Well,
I have I have guys that are possible for that. Yeah.
so earlier we were talking about, bingo cards, and there are a lot of things that were not on your bingo card. Was you moving
Yeah.
to Africa ever on your bingo card?
Not a chance. In fact, let me tell you something. I was there for like I got hired to do these. I only got hired to do 13 episodes, and while I was in the middle of the 13, the producer said, "You want to do another 13 right after?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I did 26 in a row. It took me like 3.5 months or something. And one of the cast, his dad owned a kind of a boutique hotel in Kenya. And he invited me after we were done shooting. He was one of the main characters, uh, to stay there a night or two, which I went and I did. And it was very, there was like five other guests or something. It was a very small, kind of luxurious place near a park, a game park. I didn't go to the park, but I remember sitting there at night, in the evening, and this guy's passing around his 80-year-old scotch or whatever, and we're having a drink or two. And this Kenyan guy who was staying there, he says, "Hey, would you ever live in Kenya?" I said, "No way." Like it was an immediate like that. And sure enough, I lived there for 10 years.
10. And are you currently in Kenya at the moment?
No, I'm in Uganda at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another project going on here. It's sort of in the infancy stage, but
Okay. Wow, you're always doing projects.
well, that's the only way to do it, I think. You can't, because you never know what's going to move when,
Mhm.
right? Like you just don't. So you have many irons in the fire and you keep moving them forward. And yeah. And I'm in the middle of writing two features and developing, creating another one. So
So, can you share with us, if you can, maybe some of your projects that you're currently working on?
yeah, of course. One of the main ones that's got traction recently is Blind Justice, it's called. And it's a true story about this young Kenyan guy. He's like, I think he was 27 at the time. Uh, he gets in a bit of a land dispute with a judge. A judge kind of broke the law. Kenya has this law that if someone is selling ancestral land, they have to get the all the adults in the family to agree. They can't just sell it on their own. I think that's in other countries in Africa too. So what happened was his dad sold the land and he found out about it by accident. You what? Because he wanted to develop it himself. And so he went to the judge and goes, "Yeah, there's been a mistake." No, it wasn't. I got the land, but that's against the law. He says, "Try me," kind of thing. And the judge actually tried to get him killed, uh, through this. He conned him. He got some other guys to con him. Some guys that were relatives of his. He bought them, and they gave him a bullshit story, and he fell for it. And then he got trapped, and uh, obviously the killing didn't happen. But what happened is they decided to say he was a thief, and then the judge knew how to prosecute that, and he hired his family to lie and be witnesses. And in Kenya, if you're a thief with violence of any sort, you get the death penalty. So even the judges were bought on the trials because the testimonies were insanely conflicting and nothing lined. It was just nuts. So anyway, he winds up on death row. He appeals. Those judges were bought. And anyway, he ends up getting out of prison because he writes a book about it. And the book gets to the Pope, and the Pope sends him gifts, and then the Pope gets a visit to the president, and the president eventually lets this guy out. That's the rough story. How that all happened is quite amazing. So this guy came to me. He knew I had been doing all these TV shows and stuff, and he wrote me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." Everybody thinks they got a movie, right, in their life. I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." He goes, "Yeah, but here's the book." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't read the book, and he kept pestering me over and over through LinkedIn, actually. And I was like, "Okay, do you have a screenplay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got a screenplay." I said, "Okay, I can read that." So I read it. It's terrible. It's just terrible. But I but I get the idea of what happened. And I was like, okay, I'll write it. I'll buy the rights from you. It was just a nominal fee, and mainly he gets his money when it's all financed. And I said, I'll write the script. So I wrote the script and so on. And now, through a series of events, Buffalo 8 is a production company based out of Santa Monica. They are the exec producers on it now. And, they took it to Sundance and pitched it to people. There's three other production companies interested, and it's got some traction, basically. And even the guy that got the gifts from the Pope and brought them to this guy in Kenya, that same guy went and met the new Pope, Leo, and told him about this guy and the story and the movie coming. So the Pope now knows about it as well. So I think there's somewhat, if they like the movie, I'm sure it will be promoted through the church or whatever, because it is quite, how can I put it, a very kind deed from Pope Francis. Yeah.
Well, I didn't expect to hear that your new project is just all that's gone around it, starting with this guy just reaching out to you and hearing the
Mm.
story, and now that you're doing this, um, best of luck, man. This sounds like a very good film that you're working on. So I can't wait to see it, maybe at a film festival or somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. There's a guy, I'm going to say his name. There's a guy that's Kenyan. He was born in Kenya. He was in the recent Superman movie. He played uh with Mr. whatever his name was. Uh Eddie Gathegi is his name. He's been in a lot of shows. Blacklist. He headed up his own series. Um, yeah, I would say the most, not the most famous Kenyan actor because Lupita is probably the most famous, but Eddie's up there, right? Eddie Gathegi. And I got my eye on him. He knows about this project, but there's no negotiation yet. There's no deal. There's no anything like that. But I think it would be a real great role for him because of the challenge of it. It's not like he just has to be Mr. Cool like he was in Superman and, you know, Mr. What was it? Majestic, not majestic, whatever it was. Anyway, it's a very challenging role. I mean, the guy gets beaten almost to death and the shit he goes through and then the loss of his family to, they just all anyway, it's quite the story and a great challenge for an actor and a real meaty thing. And then I have other pretty big name actors in mind too. Of course, I have my wish list,
Yes.
but and Lupita could play his wife. I know people that know Lupita. She wasn't in Kenya when I got there, but she did work a lot prior to me getting there in Kenya. She did a series called Shuga.
Wow.
It was done by MTV. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing about these projects is that you need a lot of and you mentioned it earlier, teamwork, and you want to, have your team. So best of luck, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap this up. So I have a couple questions to kind of land the plane. My first question is, are there any other creatives out there who are either upcoming or less known whom you suggest we keep an eye out for?
Yes. There are so many. There are so many. But I'll name a couple young men. One is an 18-year-old named Tai Wong. Uh, he's based in Calgary. He's a very talented, handsome young actor. He's 18. I think maybe he's 19 now. I'm not sure. Uh, I taught him for a year last year. And what I do with, I have an acting class that I have ongoing all the time. I still teach actors to this day. Um, I have my this year-long class, a group of 8 people, and I have them. If anybody wants to write a short film, go ahead. So he wrote one, a couple other people wrote one, and I chose his because it was so interesting. And he's got a talent for the writing and acting. And he's such a good kid. So there's Tai Wong. Watch out for him. He got into this series. I think it's going to be it's a recurring role in My Life with the Walter Boys. Yeah, it's a Netflix thing. And then there's another guy named Bailey Bourget, very good actor. Uh, People really like him. He's good at what he does, and he's up and coming too. I think he's in his early 20s, like 22, something like that, 23. He's another one. These are Canadians because that's what I deal with. I deal with Canadians mainly. There's that, and then I have this comedic actress. She's been through the Groundlings program. She's been through Second City. She loves comedy. She started a later date, like in her 40s, but she's about to crack open. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and her name's Carolyn Kennedy. So keep an eye out on those three.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And now my
Yeah.
last question is, Neil, why is creativity important for you?
I think creativity is the most joyful thing anybody can do for several reasons. I think I think it's an innate ability we all have, and actually why we're here, to be honest. It's like the reason. And of course, you can be creative in many different ways. There's evil way to be creative, there's a positive way to be creative.
Yeah.
There's a thing called lying, that's creative. Uh, but I think we are creative machines, not machines, I shouldn't say that, beings. And to the way I've looked at it, and I've been told to look at it, and I believe I know it's true, is that everything around you was created. It was an idea. It was not a thing. And that's what we do. We bring ideas into the physical plane here, and we help others to do the same. And to show with stories, why I like stories is because it shows you what happens if you don't go down the right path. Although, you're not really preaching
Mhm.
in movies, but you are giving a window to what could and often does happen. And I think creativity is the best thing you can do. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. And for those who are in the audience and want to get to know more about you and the work that you do, where can they go online?
They can go to I have a website, a couple of them. One is neilschell.org. It's neilschell.org. And then the other one is Troy, as in the city of old, Troy Pictures Inc.com. That's my production company website. So yeah, you can go there and find out about me. I'm also on all the other platforms, Instagram, Facebook, yada yada yada.
And quick question before we go, because you mentioned that you were in a role next to Liam Neeson.
Yes,
Where in the film can we find you?
I'm in the beginning. He goes to the Mexican hospital, the psych hospital, to get the pilot. He's looking for a pilot. And I'm the doctor he talks to. And I say, yeah, this guy's nuts. He tried to start an ambulance with a defibrillator. And he's like, my kind of guy. It's a funny story because uh, Liam didn't have that line, but Joe Carnahan comes in and goes, yeah, yeah, Liam, you need to say something here. It's like, okay. my kind of guy. It was fun. It was a very fun time. Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for this conversation, for sharing your love for creativity, and for all that you've taught us today about patience and giving creativity a
Mm.
shot, and just the doors that continue to open. Just blew my mind. Best of luck, my friend. And to
Thank
those who
you.
are in the audience, please feel free to like this episode, subscribe. If you're watching it on YouTube, especially, feel free to comment as well and share this
Mm.
episode so that other people may discover our guest today, Neil Schell. And if you would like to help me out, you can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth that H7. All of your contribution helps me to keep the podcast going and helps me to take care of business. So again, thank you so much to the audience, and thank you so much to you, Neil, for being an awesome guest here on Creativity Worth Expressing.
Well, my pleasure, Ryan. It's been great talking to you, and I hope everything goes great for you, honestly. It's a good concept. Go after creativity. That's what it's about. Good for you.